Welcome to this unit on common types of data visualization, part 2. In this session, you will understand how to use bar graphs and the benefits of bar graphs, and understand how to use line graphs and the benefits of line graphs. So what are bar graphs? Bar charts are a good way to compare different categories of data. They are created by drawing horizontal or vertical bars that represent the values of each category. The length of the bar corresponds to the value of the category. Bar charts are often used to compare sales figures, website traffic, or customer satisfaction scores. What are the benefits of bar graphs? They allow users to summarize large datasets in an easy-to-understand visual form. They help us identify and understand patterns and trends in a dataset. Also, they are simple to create and customize. A bar graph has two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis. One axis consists of bars representing different variables or categories, whereas the other axis represents discrete values. A bar graph consists of rectangles or bars. The width of each bar is the same, whereas the height of each bar varies depending on the numeric value of the category. Bars can either be vertical or horizontal, depending on your preference. The gap between all the bars should be uniform throughout the chart. Let us now look at types of bar graphs. In a vertical bar graph, the bars are drawn along the x-axis, vertically from down to top. The horizontal axis consists of the data categories, whereas the vertical axis represents the numerical values. A vertical bar graph is more common than a horizontal bar graph, and it is also sometimes called a column graph or chart. In a horizontal bar graph, the bars are drawn along the y-axis horizontally. The vertical axis consists of the data categories, and the horizontal axis of the bar represents the numeric values. A horizontal bar graph is useful when you have long category names or many categories. The grouped bar graph. A grouped bar graph is used when you want to visualize data that consists of various categories, and each category further has several items or subgroups. For instance, if there are 5 categories and each category has 3 subgroups, the grouped bar chart will have 5 groups representing the main categories, and each group will have 3 bars. Grouped bar charts can be drawn vertically or horizontally, depending on your preference. Stacked bar graph. A stacked bar graph is also helpful in representing information about subgroups of different categories. However, the subgroups are stacked on top of each other. In other words, in a stacked bar graph, each bar is divided into several parts. Hence, we can also use a stacked bar graph to compare parts of a whole. So, when do we use bar charts? Bar charts are particularly useful when you want to compare categories of data, visualize nominal or ordinal data, and highlight differences and similarities. Line charts. A line chart or a line graph is a way of showing how two numeric or quantitative variables are related. A variable is something that can vary, such as amounts, rates, time periods, etc. These variables are shown on the x and y axis of the graph, which are the horizontal line at the bottom and the vertical line at the left. A line chart looks like dots connected by one or more lines from left to right on a graph. Each dot represents a data value. Line charts are versatile charts for visualizing data that changes over time. They're particularly useful when you want to track trends, compare trends across multiple variables, identify patterns and anomalies, and make projections. This line graph compares the unemployment rates in the USA and Japan from March 1993 to March 1999. Some line charts have more than one line, which allows for additional comparison between categories or groups. While 2 or 3 lines on a line chart can provide some extra information and clarity, too many lines can make the chart hard to read. Choose the right data. Line charts are best suited for data that is continuous and changes over time. If your data is categorical or discrete, you may want to consider using a different type of chart, such as a bar chart or a pie chart. Make sure your chart is clearly labeled with a title, axis labels, and legend. This will help your audience understand the data that is being represented. Let us take a look at the following line chart. In what ways can we enhance it? In this version of the chart, you can see it's much cleaner and easier to read and understand much more easily, and we have reduced the cognitive load for the audience. One way to enhance it even further is by emphasizing the red line, which is core to the main message, and graying out the rest of the lines. You can also make it thicker to draw the eye in even more. Sometimes you won't have all the data you need to connect the dots, so to speak. For example, you may be missing data for some months or years. If you choose to use a line graph in these instances, it's very important to make sure your audience is aware of these gaps, so they don't misinterpret the information and draw wrong conclusions. If the gaps are small and don't significantly impact the trend, you can simply remove those days from your chart. This is a straightforward approach, but it can reduce the overall sample size. On screen, we can see the blue line graph is patchy and hard to read, while the green is straightforward. Further reading on how to handle data gaps in your line chart. When not to use a line chart, first, when comparing categories at a single point in time, when you have data with irregular intervals, when you have data with non-numerical categories, when you have data with too many categories, and when you have data with outliers. Data with outliers. If your data has outliers, then a line chart may be misleading. Outliers are data points that are far away from the rest of the data. Line charts can make outliers appear more significant than they really are. If you have outliers in your data, then a box plot may be a better choice. Data with too many categories. If you have too many categories to compare, then a line chart will become cluttered and difficult to read. In general, you should not try to compare more than 5 lines on a single chart. If you have more than 5 categories to compare, then a bar chart or a box plot may be a better choice. Data with non-numerical categories. Line charts are designed for numerical data, so they should not be used for data with non-numerical categories. For example, a line chart would not be a good choice for showing the number of employees in each department because the departments are not numerical categories. A bar chart would be a better choice for this task. Data with irregular intervals. Line charts assume that the data points are evenly spaced along the x-axis. If the data points are not evenly spaced, then the line chart will be misleading. For example, a line chart would not be a good choice for showing the average temperature every day for a year because the days are not evenly spaced throughout the year. A scatter plot would be a better choice for this task. Now, we are going to look at how to choose the right chart type. Thanks for engaging in this unit and see you in the next one.